Welcome everybody to Growth Mastermind Group. We're a group of entrepreneurs here to help other entrepreneurs to succeed in their journey, to help each other, to unleash, fulfill, and discover their potential. And tonight we have a special guest here, Miss Victoria Finch. She's one of the most, I would say, accredited coach that I saw. I saw like a long list of accreditation for everything, and it's impressive. But I want to take this one from her, and I want her to introduce herself and tell us all about what she's getting, what accreditation with the NLP, with the coaching, hypnosis, and all other accreditation that she has to know why she did that, how she get there, and how she help others in their journey.
So you want me to introduce myself then?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm Victoria Finch. I'm the heart healer. I'm a master hypnotherapist, and I am the founder of the Soul Sister Success Circle. The Soul Sister Success Circle mission is to empower heart-centered women who are struggling to show up fully, authentically in a male-dominated world, and to accelerate to our highest potential and shatter the glass ceiling, because together we rise. I am also certified life coach and several certifications. I'm a speaker, author, mom, which is my most important job in the world, because I believe that as mothers and as fathers, we are grooming the future leaders of the globe. I used to say of America, but since we live in such a global society, I now say the world. And that is who I am. I'm Victoria Finch. I see Eugenia looks like she got put out.
I take care of everything else so you can focus.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. Today, I'm gonna be talking about mastering your mind and mastering your life. But I'm going to tell you a little bit. I'm going to tell you my story. I remember the day well. It was August 2017. See, I had been in and out of depression most of my life. But on this day, I was in the deepest, darkest depression I had ever been in my entire life. And I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I could hear my family outside. They were just living life. They were chuckling, but I could not find joy, could not find happiness. And then I saw the bottle of pills. I reached for the pills, and I started to unscrew the top. And hearing my family laugh in the background, it just didn't seem to matter. I still was alone. So I started to take those, I took that pill, bottle, I unscrewed that top, and I started to put the pills in my other hand. And as I got ready to put those pills in my mouth, a voice came. I think it had to have been a voice of God that said, "You were not made for this. This is not what I created you to be." And then something happened deep inside of me. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had to change. I knew something had to change in my life. So I went on a quest. I started studying, I started learning things. I came across Wayne Dyer, who said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. I came across Louise Hay. I came across Dr. Joe Dispenza. I am an advanced student now, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I came across Les Brown, who said, it's possible. It's possible to change your life. It's possible to change the way that you think. Viktor Frankl, he said, everything can be taken from a man except one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances. To choose one's own way. And I knew when I heard that voice, I had to make a different choice in life. I had to make a different choice. And I took those pills and I went to the bathroom and I poured them down the drain because that is not what I was made for. That is not what you're made for. There are times in your life when you feel low, when you feel down. Maybe it's a broken relationship. Maybe it's a lost job. Maybe it's this pandemic that we're in, the anxiety that it caused. But you were not made for this. You were made for greatness. You were made to soar. You are put here. You were made on purpose for a purpose. The National Science Institute says this. It says that we as human beings have an estimated 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day. And of those thoughts, 80% of them are negative. And 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. So when we start thinking negative thoughts and we start repeating these negative thoughts, then we start thinking negatively. When we start thinking positive, then we start thinking positive thoughts, and that becomes repetition. And this is where the change, and if we can master our mind, then we can master our lives, because we are in control of our thoughts. We may not be able to change our outside circumstances, but we can change who we are. Because our thoughts will lead, our emotions lead to thoughts, which leads to actions, which lead to behavior. We have the power to change our behavior at any given time. Now, I know sometimes this is easier said than done, but it takes work. Now, I'm a Christian. I read the Bible. The Bible says each day we must renew our mind. So every day we need to renew our mind. We need to renew our thoughts. We need to control what it is that's we're letting into our mind. See, the human brain is programmed to the negative. We are programmed to the negative. It is a survival instinct that we have. There's a reptilian part of our brain, something called the amygdala. The amygdala is where we find our fight, flight, or freeze response. See, back when there was saber-toothed tigers and dangers everywhere, we had to use that part of our brain constantly. Now, we are at a point to where we can control that. You notice when you're driving down the road and there's an accident, you can't help but look at it? It's because we are trained to do that. It is instinctual. But we don't have to live that way. We can control our thoughts. We can give a voice. When you're anxious or when you're excited or afraid of something, when we give it a voice, that's one way to control it. And I'm going to give you some techniques on how to deal with negative self-talk, give you some techniques on how to deal with limiting beliefs, because we all have them. But the key is, do we stay with them and take them down the rabbit hole? Someone gets into a car accident. Oh my God, I wrecked my car. Now my insurance is going to go up. I may have to go to the hospital. I got hospital bills. And you go down this rabbit hole. And I'm going to teach you some ways today where you don't have to do that, where you can actually stop that thought in its track and not go down that rabbit hole with it. So when I was looking at that bottle of pills, I didn't think I had enough. I didn't see a way out. I didn't realize that I was in control. Maybe not of my circumstances, but I was in control of me. Just as you are in control of you. The first thing we have to do when we have these negative thoughts is we've got to identify them. We have to identify them. Because what we tend to do is we tend to push it down, or we tend to go down that rabbit hole, as I say. But instead, if we would give them voice and understand that nothing you feel is wrong, it's what you do with those feelings, with those emotions, that can get you into a lot of trouble. You feel what you need to feel. So we need to identify them. And when we identify them, you're going to ask yourself, what was going on? Why am I thinking that way? Become the conscious observer. Start observing what it is that you're thinking. What brought this thought on? How do these negative thoughts make me feel? I'm an emotional freedom techniques and thought-filled therapy master practitioner. And one of the things that we do, tapping, which is TFT, I don't know if you've heard, it's based on acupuncture. And one of the things we do is that if you're afraid or anxious, we give it a voice. One of the techniques we'll say is, even though I'm anxious, even though I'm afraid, I deeply and completely love myself. Because what you're doing is when you're able to give it that voice, and when you're able to love yourself through it, you are starting to release that energy, because what you resist will persist. So we want to identify, we want to know what's going on. And then what actions did you take, or how did you behave? Ownership, self-ownership is really important. So what did you do? How did you come about? I know what I did. When I was looking at that pill bottle, when I was getting ready to take those pills, when I was despondent and depressed, feeling unloved and unworthy, I know what I did. In that moment, I was deciding that there was no other way. I was deciding to do a permanent solution for a temporary problem. But I had to switch that thought, and that voice deep inside of me said, you were not made for this. Just like you're not made for this. And so you have to identify these negative thoughts. Once you've got them identified, you got to catch them. Carry a little notebook around with you. When something negative comes, just jot it down. You don't have to stay with it. Just jot it down. And that will help you start realizing what your thought patterns are day in and day out. And then you can start to control it. Why am I thinking like this? And I don't have to think like this. And now you can control it. One of the things that I help with is we do this little imagery, if you will. You pretend like there's a stop sign. Anybody can do this. You can pretend like there's this big stop sign in your face. Visualize this stop sign, right? Right there, visualize. And then you make it smaller, 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 and smaller. It's a small stop sign. When a negative thought comes, you bring that stop sign back up to your face. And mentally, when you start doing that, you will be able to catch those negative thoughts in their track. Now, once you do that, what do you have to do? You got to challenge them. Is it true? Is it helpful? You know, a lot of times, you know, we may hear somebody say, especially single people who've been single a long time, they might say, oh, there aren't any good men. There aren't any good women. Really? There are no good men? There are no good women? What makes that true for you? So we have to challenge those thoughts. What is the evidence that you're using? My son one day, he said, Mom, I'm always losing stuff. And I just looked at him. I said, you're always losing things? He says, yes. I said, well, go get your book bag. Where's your book bag? Oh, it's right over there. So you're really not always losing things, but it's that negative thought pattern. So he had to change that thought. He's like, no, I'm not. And then when he was able to free that thought pattern, he was able to find what it is he was looking for. You ever look for something and you look, and you can't find it? It's because your mind is stuck in the reptilian part of your brain and you're all keyed up, excited, anxious, trying to find it. But what happens when you're sitting down, not paying it any attention? You instantly remember where it is. And that's what I want you to learn how to do with that stop sign. When a negative thought comes, that stop sign is small, negative thought, you bring it up and you stop that negative thought right away. And then you can change it. You have the power to change your thoughts at any time. For every negative thought, replace it with a positive thought. And you can do that in a moment's notice. It's called reframing. If you're driving on the highway and someone cuts you off, instead of, calling them every name, but they're God-given, you could reframe that to, maybe they're trying to get home. Maybe they're trying to get to the hospital. When you start to reframe things and you catch these, that also raises your vibration. And you'll start feeling better. You'll start sitting straight. Also, when you're subconscious, you have to watch your physiology. You have to watch your physiology. How are you sitting? How are you standing? If I put my head down, my voice automatically went down. I didn't do that on purpose. Subconsciously, I did that. But when I sit up straight, my voice goes back up again. Watch your physiology and watch what you're saying to yourself, because you are listening. You spend more time with you than anybody else. And what we have to do is really figure out what's going on, be that observer, because what ends up happening when that amygdala kicks in and you're anxious and you're afraid and these negative thoughts are taking you down that rabbit hole, your prefrontal cortex shuts down. That's where your logic is. That's where your reasoning is, in the front part of your brain. Because when you're anxious, when you're afraid, when you're in a negative state, your body right now is thinking survival. That's all. All your reasoning shuts down, all your logic shuts down. So by catching those thoughts mid-air, I like to say, you catch them mid-air and you change them and you reframe them, then you're able to think more clearly. You're going to identify them. Where's this thought coming from? You're going to accept the thought. You're going to challenge the thought. Is this true? Is this helpful? And then you are going to change the thought immediately. And when you change it, you're just going to reframe it with a positive thought for the negative thought. I always challenge everyone, for the next 7 days, I want you to think positive thoughts. This is much harder than you think it is. When something negative comes, I want you to instantly change it, bring that stop sign up. And if you go down that rabbit hole, you start the 7 days over again. You are in control of your thoughts. You are in control of you. Energy, emotion, energy in motion. You create the energy that you want to have in your life. You control it. No one else can control it. I'm going to leave you with another quote. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is the power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That's from Viktor Frankl. Thank you.
I'm just trying to wrap myself around a few ideas before we move forward. So I know that, and it's true, yeah, we go to that rabbit hole all the time of, like assimilating our, I would say.
You sound like you're in an echo. I'm not understanding you well.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, let me make sure that was good. Microphone. So yeah,
It's good?
Yes.
Wonderful. We have different options. We'll make sure we're gonna keep them all around, just in case. But yeah, I was trying to say that I'm trying to wrap some ideas that you already said about it. I'm trying to kind of understand deeper and to go a little bit deeper in there, if you don't mind, because I know that everybody goes on this rabbit hole that you said earlier. Like getting distracted by our own mind, like like the example that you give with the things that you don't find. Usually you were like like getting clouded. Oh yeah, I lost it again. And then you like your brain is reacting in a certain way and it's blocking your mind and get to that idea. And I think what you just said is very important, because I think that's part of the neuro linguistic, if I'm not mistaken. Is the blocks that you have inside of the brain. The vision and the steps. I forgot exactly what it is. The exact sequence that you have in linguistic programming. But I know that to a certain point, you're saying that in the moment you visualize something, yeah, your brain is trying to convert it, and it's trying to kind of figure out a movie in your brain somewhere there deep. So you're trying to look for that movie, and if you find something, oh, this is happening when I'm losing my key, or when somebody passes me, or I pass an accident, or anything that is something that it makes you to be angry or frustrated or in certain way. And my question that, like, I would like you to kind of help us to understand better, it is how you manage to kind of make a clear image about when this signals appears to you, and how you're going to be able to kind of, okay, this is the scene when I'm going to get angry. There's any way you can find out, that perception that you have about a certain sequence that you're going to do when you're going to get pissed off, or you're going to, say to yourself with the negative thoughts that you always lose the key, or whatever it is that uh,
That's part of identifying them. You have to identify where the thought is coming from, and you have to challenge it. When that's a whole part of that jotting down. So NLP says everything that we take in, Dr. Joe Dispenza actually says that we take in 42 million thoughts per tenth of a second or something like that. We can only process bits and pieces of maybe up to 32. So our subconscious mind is constantly feeding information in, right? We can't handle all that information. So we either distort it, delete it, or generalize it in our conscious brain. So what that means is that we'll either make it much bigger than it really is. That's a distortion. Or we'll minimize it and not see it for how it truly is, or we'll delete it. Now, that doesn't mean when we delete something, that doesn't mean that it's gone. What that means is that we've pushed it to the back of our mind. It's gone. It can come back up. Or we'll generalize it, like, I always lose things. All women are like this. So those are the three things we do when something comes into our mind. I like to share the story of the 16-year-old high school boy. The 16-year-old high school boy, it's time for the winter dance. He goes and he asks one of the girls, who's a brunette, he asks her to the dance. She says no. Now he has generalized that all brunettes are unkind, or he can't ever get a date with a brunette. So if you go through his Facebook and social media, all you see is blondes, because he has internalized from when he was 16 years old that brunettes are not his type, or he's not their type. Doesn't matter. She could have said no because she felt insecure. She could have said no because she had something else to do that day. But that's what happens with our brain. So we start to generalize these things. And then when something like that comes up, the brain brings it back up again, right? Because we've created an internal representation of it. The way to do that is to recognize when this is happening. You recognize when this is happening by identifying it, learning to become a conscious observer of your thoughts. Start listening to your thoughts. Start listening to your words. When you are able to do that, then you can identify where they're coming from. Is this coming from when I was 16 years old? Is this coming from the time that mom forgot to pick me up from baseball? Then you're able to dig into some root causes of why these things keep coming up, because the subconscious mind will bury it, but it manifests itself different ways in your life. It shows up. So you have to be able to catch them, learn to be that conscious observer, and then you're able to just stop them, reframe it, and change it. You've got the power to do that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, It is for me. Is like a lot of time. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing something, and I'm like maybe get frustrated, and into that moment, I'm not so conscious about, I get frustrated. Instead for me to be like, okay, wait a second, I'm getting frustrated because of, so I'm not maybe having yet the ability of kind of actualizing, that moment, identifying, when it comes. So I was wondering, if it's anything that like your way, or something that you recommend,
Yeah,
as a exercise for you to get to
yeah,
that level.
yes. Well, the first thing, breath work, breath work.
Mm.
When we're frustrated or when we're angry, breath work is really the savior. Slow down, take a deep breath. And when you take a deep breath, you'll take a slow breath in. You want to hold it and you want to blow it out twice the time you took it in. So, like if you blow in on the count of 4, you hold it the count of 2, you blow out the count of 8. If you take in on the count of 6, you hold it the count of 4, you blow out at the count of 12. That will immediately calm you down. We run around all day in what's called the beta brain. I don't know how deep you want me to get with this, but we walk around, all day we're in beta. Beta is that awake state. That's the brain waves are moving pretty fast, right? We're usually somewhere between mid beta and high beta. If I were to say, okay, you got a quiz right now, you go straight into high beta. The brain waves start going really fast, right? By taking a deep breath, you're able to slow down your heart rate and slow down your brain waves. And you can take that down to alpha. And if you really get still, you can go down to theta. Delta is sleep. That's restorative sleep is delta. And then you have gamma, which is a whole nother conversation. So it's really about just taking the time, taking a breath, and slowing down those brain waves. In hypnotherapy, that's what we do. We put you into alpha, which is the learning state, or we'll take you for really deep work down to theta.
And when you're like putting, I mean, I'm just trying to kind of, like for everybody to understand and to kind of follow like a pattern, that we have, yes. And we're trying to kind of understand, um, like people to understand exactly, like, okay, you're doing the breath, that's going to give you to that alpha. Yeah, now you're in alpha. Is the alpha the best way of handling things, or it is, because I'm wondering, if I'm going to go even lower, even deeper than that, will I be still conscious to be able to answer question, or I'm going to be somewhere in a dream world,
No,
like.
no, no, no. They think of alpha as being in the zone. You ever get really involved if you're a reader and you're in this book and you're just so into this book, you know that it's just black ink on paper, right? But
Mhm.
you have basically temporarily put aside your disbelief, right? Because it's a book. And so you're looking at the book, you know what it is, but yet you can really get into it. Or if you're watching a really good movie, that puts you in the zone. Athletes do it all the time. All it is just it does not make you unconscious at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was just, like, because, like we have all these states. I've been a few times to a hypnotherapist, and it was kind of funny the way that he put me to sleep in no time, especially because I went there and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna sleep at all. He can make me, but I'm not gonna. I was very prepared for not to go, and yeah, um,
By the way, all hypnosis is self hypnosis. No one can hypnotize you unless you allow it.
yeah, I know. But I
Yeah.
found out later. I was listening to Paul McKenna, and he was mentioning the fact that when you are determined not to get hypnotized, you actually telling your brain that you are afraid about getting right, and you opening yourself for that hypnosis. So you're
Yeah.
supposed to get there, like, like either you open yourself or you deny it. It's the same thing when it's about hypnosis, because you're opening those waves. And it was kind
Yes.
of weird that, I'm like, I'm not gonna get, and he put me there. And in the moment I was there, I was super calm. I was like, like that calmness. And that's kind of the reason I ask, because, like I remember that he was asking me everything, and I'm like, I was responding like very calm. He was like, "Hey, right now we don't hear any cars, we don't hear any noise outside. The only thing you use your my voice." And I'm like, wow, And I was thinking like, like I'm here, I'm like, do I really like I'm asleep? Do I'm awake? I
Well,
was
no,
trying to
okay. So hypnosis is not sleep. You're wide awake the whole time. Okay. So what ends up happening when we're children,
Mhm,
our minds are wide open, right? We believe in all sorts of things as children.
mhm,
When we get to about between the ages of 9 and 12 years old, that's when we develop something called a critical factor. Some will call it a critical faculty. When we get our critical faculty, that's when we start to reason things. Kids usually stop believing in Santa Claus. Children stop believing in maybe the tooth fairy. They start to reason, right? Which is why often as hypnotherapists, we do not work with children under the age of 10 to 12 unless you're really trained to work with these younger children.
mhm.
But so all hypnotherapy does is that it gets past that thinking, logical brain and just puts you in a relaxed, calm state of mind. It's like being at the beach and watching the waves come in and go out, come in and go out. It's just like that.
So see, he's putting basically back in your childhood, kind of,
Say what?
he's putting you back in your childhood when you're like a
No,
few
no,
years
no,
old.
no,
And I
not
was like,
necessarily putting you back in your childhood. It's what it's doing is it's talking, it's getting to where we can speak directly to your subconscious.
okay.
So you're not trying to logic your way out of it. So it's just talking to that subconscious mind is what we're talking to. And that's what happens when we get you into that alpha theta. It's the same thing you get. People are in and out of hypnosis all day long. Have you ever driven somewhere, someplace you go all the time, and before you're on the phone, and before you know it, you're there? Or if you like for for me, my poor son went to middle school for 5 years because I had two other younger children, and I was so used to driving to the middle school that when he got into high school, I was still driving to the middle school. That habit is a part of hypnosis. That's just what I did. I was on autopilot. So we're in and out of hypnosis all day long. We just don't realize it.
We have a question from Christian here. If you want, I can read it to you. What is the best technique to bring the positive thoughts when you are flocked with negative thoughts?
Yeah. Again, that's what I said before. You're going to identify that negative thought, where it's coming from. Don't try to suppress it. Just give it a voice. I know that I'm feeling upset, but that's okay. I know that I'm frustrated. That's okay. So you don't want to keep pushing it down, pushing it down. That's when we start getting into you need to take a pill for depression. Well, not necessarily, because it could be physiological too. But a lot of times, a lot of this is because we think we should be one way. And that's not true. You can think anything you want. It's okay. But when it's a negative thought, all you want to do is just identify it, ask, is this really true? Question everything. And then you're able to and then replace it with the opposite. So if you were to give me any negative thought or limiting belief, you can give me any one, and then I can tell you the opposite of that. Affirmations is great, especially if it comes. There are two main things that we as humans, I'm not worthy and I'm not enough. That's where affirmations come in at. Or as I can't think of Noah, I can't think of his last name. He uses affirmations. So when we look in the mirror and say, I am rich, a lot of times you think you're lying to yourself. And so you find that affirmations may not work, right? But an affirmation, you can say, why is it I'm so rich? The subconscious brain has to answer questions, right? So you're able to stay in the now with it, but yet you're tricking your brain into doing the things that you need to do to get rich if that's what you desire to do. So one of the ways to stop negative thinking is to start affirmations, things that are positive. Repetition, repetition, repetition. If 80% of what you think is negative and 95% of what we think is repetitive, then what we want to do is we want to change those negative thoughts into positive thoughts and let that be the negative, let that be the 95% positive. So if you're always thinking negative, you switch that around. Just ask yourself, what's the opposite of what I'm feeling right now?
Mhm.
And then say, I feel whatever that positive is. Does that help,
Yeah,
Kristen?
Christian, I feel like text if Christian, let's see if he's anyhow until he's texting back. I want to ask you, like I know one of the things you say we're gonna touch base with it was the conscious and subconscious, and I'm just trying to kind of um, appeal to your knowledge about these two entities. About yes, he helped. Yes, uh, and Victor also has a question. By the way, we're gonna get that to you, Victor. So is this idea about conscious and subconscious, and we are trying to kind of talk with our subconscious to get the stuff done, or get reasoning more with that mentality where we're more calm, we're more I will say not in that uh, flight mode, like fight right away, and like we're calm, we're more mellow, and we are more I will say conscious about the idea of not getting angry, or making something ridiculous that we regret maybe later on. So my question to it is like, how are we gonna ensure that we're gonna be able to get faster to such a state? Like, is there any way we can like be like, okay, this is the time. I already identified the idea that is gonna happen. I think I'm gonna get there. I need to change my negative thoughts and my everything in that positive mindset. And how I can get in that subconscious like
Okay, I
fast,
don't know.
fast.
All right, I'm going to try to answer the question again because I've kind of answered it a few times, but I'm going to do it again for you. I'll change my words if that helps you. Because
So I'm
we've been
trying to
talking about the conscious and subconscious mind. All right, so the subconscious mind, our reptilian part of our brain, that's where the amygdala is. The limbic system in our brain puts us in fight, fright, or freeze mode, right? So how do we get out of that if we're going down that rabbit trail? First thing you do is you change your physiology. Stand up, sit up, change your physiology. And you would be surprised how quickly that works. Everyone's gonna, I don't care who you are, you're gonna get angry, you're gonna get frustrated, you're gonna feel anxious. These are normal human emotions. If you don't feel that way, I am more concerned about you than you can ever imagine. So you're gonna have these feelings, they're normal. It's not about, it's okay to go to a pity party, you just need to know when to leave. It's staying in that state, right? So the first thing you do is you change your physiology. You sit up, you stand up, you take a walk. There's all kinds of things. Getting out into nature, that will help you. Feeling the air. Some people have to ground, which means that they've got to put their feet into the grass. That always helps as well. And really, what you put in your body, watch what you put in your body. Notice that how you feel, that certain foods you eat will make you feel less than others. And then another thing, again, back to the identify, challenge, and change. That's really what you do. You're going to be angry. You're going to be frustrated. There's no way around it. You just don't want to stay there. Like me and that pill bottle, right? I was about to take these pills, but something said, You were not made for this, right? Something said you were not made for this. And what did I do? I told you, I stood up. I stood up, I poured those pills down. That instantly helps. There are things you can do, like you could do power poses. If you ever see how Superman stands or how Wonder Woman stand, those are power poses. And actually, when you stand there with your back straight and your shoulders back and your head evil, that really does give you a really energy push, a good energy push. So those are things that you can do as well. The subconscious mind, it's always there, but who's driving the bus? Is it the fears? Is it the anxiety? Or are you going to acknowledge them and then let your logic and reasoning brain, which is your prefrontal cortex, kick in? That's your conscious mind. And you have the control over that. Does that help?
Yep. I'm just, I'm just trying to make it like clear for everybody.
That's okay.
I'm trying every single thing like.
Everybody ask questions. If you have to ask questions, just ask questions.
Victor, it's your turn,
Yes.
sir. Don't ask the same question, okay?
No, it was basically almost the same thing, but the thing is, it's like I noticed that, I actually had to go back and apologize to Peter a couple of times because of, we all get frustrated, right? Because we have a lot of things going on in our life, not just our business life, but our personal life. And then they also go hand in hand, right? But we
Yes.
also have to go back and figure out a way to go back and divide it so we can go back and live a healthy life. One of the things I was going to go back and try to talk to you about is that I noticed that my youngest son, he has a temperament as well. Uh, it's probably because of me, because I used to have a W-2 job. Uh, Having that job, being a maintenance supervisor with a whole bunch of issues, and you're the one who has all the weight of the shoulders of getting into making sure the plan is working. That comes with a lot of strain. As you can tell, I got a lot of gray hair in my face, so that adds to it. But I never found a way to release it, and I try to go back and decompress on the way home. But this little black little thing that we carry around with us is part of us, and they always called me. So I actually finally got rid of my W-2 job and started my own business, and that actually itself lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. My family life is a lot better, but I think it did some damage to it too, because they modeled and mimic what I did in the past on how I went back and express myself when I'm frustrated. And now, since I don't have that W-2 job and able to go back and have more clarity and see my faults at the same time, I'm fixing myself. And then I'm trying to go back and try to teach that to my son too, because he's 16 years old. Kids today, they have enough peer pressure in school, and sometimes they don't have an outlet to go back and talk to, even their friends or their counselors or the teachers. The way I see it, I should be his outlet. He should vent to me because I'm his father, and I can go back and find a way to teach him. And I had a discussion with him about this just 2 days ago because of his actions. And I told him, it's like, we need to work on your anger, because everybody gets angry, everybody gets frustrated, but there's a way to control it and not really lash out to people as well. And so, do you have
Yeah.
any?
Yeah. With actually, I want to commend you. You let the 9 to 5 go. I want to commend you on your question and wanting the willingness to recognize what you had going on and the ownership to that. I will tell you about teenagers. Parents are the last people they want to talk to.
No, I
It's
understand
just,
that.
they,
Yeah, well,
they,
I
they,
get
they
that. No,
just are.
I get
So,
that.
so I think it sounds like he's gonna need, and you mentioned the school counselor or something, or right?
Yeah.
And now he's showing anger. If you go, and I'll send you the link, but my son and I did a video on teenage depression and anxiety.
Mhm.
My son had a lot of anxiety. He had a lot of depression, a lot of explosive outbursts. He did, and he finally got to the point to where enough was enough, and I ended up having to do a session with him with some hypnotherapy. He was open to it, but he talks to teenagers all the time now about anger management and the depression and anxiety and some of the tools that he used to get over it. And my son, he had to take walks. He would just like scream. My son, and by the way, he's 6'5", 280. So this is not a small kid, right? This is not a small kid. It really sounds like you're just going to have to find the right person that your son feels comfortable with.
Right.
And he's got to be willing. He's got to be willing.
Right. And that's what I kind of figured too. But you being a parent, you always trying to go back and you want them to come to you first, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to feel, and I even told that to my girls too, because I have 4 kids. I got 2 girls and 2 boys. My 2 girls are on their own. They're young ladies. They're making their mark in the world. I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. Those are my boys, and so I'm trying to get them ready for life and everything else. So, school only teaches you so much. They don't teach you everything you really need to know in life.
This might be have you apologized to them, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And we have sit downs and everything else, and assurance of me loving them, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. To a point that I'll stand in front of and stop a bullet for them.
Yeah, of course. I think you're just going to have to find someone that he really feels comfortable with expressing, because he's got to know that he's not alone.
Yeah.
And peer groups really help with that. One thing I would suggest, in fact, I'm going to be doing an interview with an organization that wants to deal with, with teenage anxiety, depression, and suicide. Mm-hmm. If you inbox me, I'll send you some information and get you connected with them.
Okay.
I'll also send you the link to the video that we did. Maybe if your son, maybe if you're playing it and he's in the room or something, maybe he'll feel more comfortable to where he really is. He expressing that, hey, I'm angry and I don't want to be like this anymore.
It's I think what happens, he has a very close relationship with my oldest daughter, and I'm trying to use that as a source because they have a great connection, because she's like, I'm divorced, and that didn't help the situation, And then I got divorced 7.5 years ago. He's 16, so he was like 8. So but the kids, all the kids became a lot closer when that happened, and me and their mother saw that. And we thought that was kind of also healthy because they were actually brought together more, But now with my boys, they're the adolescents and everything else, and them growing up, it's just.
If you shoot me an inbox and I'll send that to you.
Okay.
Send me a message. I'll send you the links to them, and if he's open to it, my son's on all type of calls, and he does a lot. He's 19 now, but he has saved two of his friends' lives. Just being able to talk to them. So I don't know if that's something your son would be open to, but at least if I send you the video, you can take a look at it and see if it might give you some pointers.
Yeah, and that's great because what I'm thinking about doing right now is just talk to my oldest daughter because they have a better connection. He goes back and confides in her more than he will confide with me or his mother, which makes sense. It's a sibling,
Yeah.
the oldest sibling. So
Yeah. Yeah, just inbox me. I'll send you that information because it's really going to take deeper work than we are probably going to be able to do tonight.
oh no
But the
no,
main
I
thing,
was just
you know,
trying to
but the
find
main
out.
thing, you know, is really, it sounds like you're doing what you know how to do as a parent. And again, I commend you for that. I
Oh, thank you.
really, really commend you for that. And just get with me and at least let's take a look at the video and then we can kind of go from there. And you could talk to my son as well. He's always open to talk to parents about their teenagers and everything. He started with his anxiety and depression. I mean, he was so bad to where he couldn't go to school because his anxiety was so bad. He couldn't even move sometimes, literally. He couldn't move.
Right.
And he's had all kinds of, you know, he was bullied, you know, and that's the thing with teenagers too. And kids, a lot of things that we're not even aware of
Right. Right.
that goes on with them.
It's
Yeah.
not like when we were kids, right? It's a different life, you know. And
Yeah.
and as long as we understand that, you know, it's just there's so many different labels out there now that we weren't even thought about when we were growing up.
Exactly. And well, you and then you have the internet. And you know, one thing too is what is the music? You know,
Actually, he's actually getting into like jazz and
oh
80s
God. Because
and
you know, one thing sometimes we got to change the music and you know, get rid of some of those alerts on those phones. That helps
yeah.
as well.
Well,
Those are just and you know, if he likes music, I don't know if he's in any type of sports, things like that really do help children. If he's a musician, maybe,
yeah.
you know, getting him lessons on his instrument, or
Yeah,
if
he
he
plays
likes,
sax. So all my kids plays in band. He plays sax, and he's now getting into vinyl records. So I take him to the store so he can look around and get a couple of vinyls so he can
well,
go.
all that will help. And depends on what he's listening to. That helps a lot. That
Oh
will
yeah,
help them a lot.
his taste in music is actually pretty good. I was real
Oh, good.
surprised.
Good.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Victoria.
I'll send those over. I'll send that over to you if you just go ahead and send me something in Messenger on Facebook. I'll get
Will
that to
do.
you.
Victoria,
Okay.
we have everybody that is here now. They want the same thing.
What's that? How do you get information? Let's see. I would
we
like
have
to get that.
we have Soha, we have Christian. They all want the information.
Oh, how do you get over? Okay. Anybody that inboxes me, I will get you a link to that video that my son and I did. And he's always willing to talk to parents and teens and everything as well. I'm trying to get him on the stage to do it all the time because he just loves helping. There are several questions. Let's see.
Yeah. The first one, I think it was from Christian. Speaking of kids, how do you do with a kid that who's afraid to sleep on her own in the bed at the age of 6? And there's any way that you can help to deal with that?
So is the child having nightmares or is afraid night tower? What's going on with the child? What is the child saying?
Christian, you have to give some more information. I'm not sure if he can hear us.
I'm gonna mute myself. Just give me just.
Mr. Christian, we're gonna need more information. You heard about afraid to go to sleep on her own. Yeah, but she has nightmares, or you know what's going on, why she's afraid, because that's what Victor asked. Okay, it's not a problem, sir. You know, it's good. Okay, so we're gonna have. Let's see, Victor when Victor come back. Yeah. So Christian said that she's just afraid to go back on sleep on her own.
Advice I can really give. Hold on a second, Cameron. I pulled my son in because I see several questions about the teenagers. And so I bought my son in. Come here, peek your head around the corner here. He's gonna just so you can see his face.
Hey, you are the hero. Your
Come
mom
here.
knows how big of a hero you are, man. You know, where we want
Mhm.
to see a hero in action. So we it was a few questions from Victor, and also Soha has two teens, and I'm not sure. Let me see if we can read the questions from Soha. How do you so one of the questions was about
Sorry, y'all.
yeah, making muscles. So yeah, it's like how to overcome the feeling of lying to yourself, depressions, all the stuff that they like different incidents, and the other one was the anger. How to get rid of the anger. That was the question that we had about teenagers.
Mhm.
How to get rid of the anger feeling. When you're angry and you want to, uh,
How do you deal with anger as a teenager, as a parent?
I mean, there's everybody's different. I can tell you my main thing is that I like to go pray and meditate, but sometimes some people like to walk, some people like to work out or pick up a hobby. A hobby, like if you're feeling even stressed or any type of pressure, pick up a hobby because a hobby is a healthy way to to navigate through that stress and um, to feel better really because you're successful at your hobby and some dopamine starts to come in. You start to feel accomplished. You start to feel happy. And it takes a lot of patience because I know with my mom, there was times where I just wouldn't talk to her, and it just takes patience, uh, no judgment zone, and if they are ever ready to talk to you, just be very open-minded. Uh, no judgment. Just listen. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. It's literally just listening, and letting them have that outlet, and just let them know that they have an outlet and they have somebody to talk to.
And one question too that I learned not to ask is, what's wrong with you? Do not ask what's wrong with you.
As from experience, that's probably one of the worst questions you can ask.
so
So,
said
so the
that
question you would ask is, the question you could do it one or two ways. You could say something like, you seem to be a little down. Would you like to talk about it?
yeah,
Or if they're angry, instead of yelling and responding back with anger, it says, just say, I'm so sorry you're angry. Would you like to talk about it?
mhm,
And that way, that gives them that, you can diffuse them without giving that energy charge back, right? So never ask, if you're married, if you want to get married, don't ever ask anyone, what's wrong with you? Because then all of a sudden they become defensive. And then you ask, like he said, we had a no judgment zone. It's like, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me. I will not judge you. It is a no judgment zone. And then sometimes it would be, and I ask permission before I would tell him anything. I would say, do you just want to vent, or would you like mom to give you some advice?
yeah,
And that way they feel they have some control, because you know what anger is, right? Anger is, I have no control. So I'm going to burst out. I'm going to just let it all hang out, if you will, because I don't have control.
yeah,
Because really, anger is the language of the unheard.
yeah. So I said that her teens, they don't want to talk with her, and she didn't want to speak with me and or anyone else, but they just keep it inside. Uh, what your mom did when you were angry?
What did I do when you were angry?
Um,
I let them be
yeah,
angry.
she let me feel. She let
I
me
really
feel.
did, literally.
And sometimes she would say she would tell me that I needed to feel. Because sometimes we get so used to putting up these walls that it does take just a tiny bit of an extra push, not a gentle push, to let your emotion out. Because my mom would be like, I know you're about to cry. Please cry. She's like, I know you need to cry. And she was like, I'm here. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to give you advice, and I'm pretty much I'm just here for you. And I would just start crying. You know, there's nothing wrong with crying, um, and I'm all adults do it, man or woman, because society has this really twisted view of men are supposed to cry, um, to keep it PG. That's just baloney.
Yeah.
And you know,
And that's
you have
really
to let these
important.
emotions out and let them feel.
When I said earlier, you know, the emotions are not bad. And sometimes he would. I'm just like, you're pretty upset, aren't you? Do you need to scream? I would let him scream. And so this is really hard as a parent because we want to take it personally. We want to internalize it, right? And then we don't want our babies crying. We don't want our children scream. We don't want it. But I would just say, if you need to scream, go scream. Go scream. Now, there were times when he got to be a little bit too much. And I would say, I need us to be away from each other. Please go to your room or go take a walk.
Yep.
I didn't confront him. I was like, you've got to go somewhere right now. Go take a walk, you know, but or I'd say, go to your room. And when you feel better, we can talk. But that was just to ease some of the tension. So those are some of the techniques that we use.
Yeah. And she also saw I asked, and okay, thank you very much, you know, and that was very helpful. And then she asked, how do you change that emotion when he's obsessed to something positive?
Say what?
How do you
He is
change the
upset to
emotion?
something positive. Sometimes we'll get. I think I know the notion there. It's like something positive will happen, but we'll still be upset because we're always expecting the next bad thing.
I think what they're saying, no. How do you change emotion when he is upset to something? Oh, maybe you're right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
We
the only way.
help
You mean he's
Soha.
upset about something positive that he shouldn't be upset about?
Soha, we need help. Because, you know, she's talking about her kids, you know, so I'm assuming everything is, you know, how do you change that emotion when he's upset
Oh,
about
how
something?
to make him feel more positive when he's angry?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't. This is a person thing. I don't know what your thing is, but you know, maybe you could take them out to lunch. You know, spend time with them and just let them know that you're always there. Uh, Sometimes it's little gestures like that, like okay, let's go out to lunch today, or okay, let's go see a movie today.
I used to put stuff in his backpack or in his lunchbox.
Yep.
Mommy loves you, or have a great day, or something like that.
Right.
Now, and that would always kind of diffuse him a little bit. But when he was angry, as long as he wasn't tearing up stuff in my house, I just let him be angry.
Yeah.
And then, you know, eventually you run out of gas. Eventually they're going to run out of gas and they're
Yeah.
going to be exhausted. And then that's when that alpha state kicks in, right? And then you're able to talk to them and just say, I'm sorry you were angry. Can we talk about it? And then let them talk. And if they don't want to talk, respect that. I work with a lot of parents that don't respect when the child doesn't want to talk. If they don't want to talk, you can't make them talk to you. You're just going to make it worse.
Yep.
So sometimes I found, and it was hard, and I would say, when you're ready, I'm here. And then he would, after a while, he'd come and we'd have that conversation.
Yeah.
I hope this is helping.
Yeah, I think Soha, you're gonna need to talk with Victoria more in depth. I think it's, you know, it seems like you have like a really
Oh,
challenging situation.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I hope I helped you guys.
You helped,
I
my
ask
friend,
that
you
you
know,
do.
and I appreciate you to come here. I appreciate you first of all, you know. I think
Yeah, no
you're
problem.
a big hero. You're a star here, okay? Thank
Okay,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you, my
Thank you
friend.
for having me.
Okay, the answer about the child who won't sleep in the bed, I had one of my children that were like that as well. They wouldn't sleep in the bed. They would just, my daughter, she would just scream and she wouldn't sleep in the bed. And it really kind of ticked me what I did. Not because I don't work with children that young, but this is me as a mom. What I did is I'd lay with her until she kind of fell asleep. And then I would kind of sneak out. And then eventually I would like just read to her, calm her down. And then I'm like, mommy's going to be right here. And then I would ease my way out of the room. Like I started in the bed and then I would be on the floor. So she knew I was still there. And then I'd work my way closer to the door. And eventually she just slept in her own room. That's what I did as a mom. That's not me as a hypnotherapist.
Yeah, on the kid that, on my kid, you know, every time he was like he was perfectly sleeping, but once I was out of the room and I was doing the last thing of the knob, and I'm like, okay, I'm going. You can hear like the knob opening again, and he was there watching you. He's like, okay.
Yes. Yes, it takes time. I think
I give up.
yeah, so how you'll have to get with me. I'm just trying to read through some of these. Kristen about the child.
So is from England. So
It's okay. Can you just answer about the negative thoughts when doing affirmations? The negative thoughts when doing affirmations.
like to exchange the negative thoughts in affirmation, so not to have negative thoughts.
Okay, so an affirmation is just that, you know, you just say, you use affirmations instead of affirmations, because you could say, I am the greatest. If you don't feel the greatest, your brain's not gonna register that. But when you say, how is it I'm the greatest? How is it that I'm rich? How is it that I'm so beautiful? Why am I so kind? And it's called affirmation. And there's a very good book, and I've got to go get it. It's by Noah. Gosh, I can't think of his last name, but it tricks the subconscious mind so you don't feel like you're lying to yourself. So what you want to do is, if you want to take an affirmation like I am something, change that into a question. How is it that I am? So that puts you in the now, that puts you in the now, and that puts yourself, your subconscious mind out of the way, because now it's just asking a question. Does that make sense? Our brains we have to ask, when we ask our brain a question, it has to provide an answer. It just does. And we don't want to use negatives. Do not talk about what you don't want, because the universe, the mind doesn't understand negatives. If I tell you, don't think of a pink elephant, what do you think of? A pink elephant. So you always want to talk in the positive. If something negative comes, you just say, oh, what's the positive of that? And then that's what you say. Does that help? I think that might answer the question.
She said that she feels, he said he feels like he's lying himself.
So do I then answer the question, how am I so rich? No, you're just asking the question. Instead of saying I am so rich, unless you're really rich, you know, or I am, instead of saying I am, just say, how is it I'm so rich? How is it I'm this way? Or why am I so happy? Right? And you don't necessarily have to answer it, but if you ask your mind that enough, guess what? You become happy. You start doing things to help you become wealthier. It works because the subconscious brain doesn't think it's lying. All the subconscious brain is really hearing still is I'm rich, but you're getting past the logic brain that if you just say, I am rich, and you don't feel rich, your logic brain saying, I'm not rich. But if you say, why am I so rich? Your subconscious brain is only hearing, I'm so rich. You've bypassed your critical faculty that I talked about earlier.
Noah San John.
No, yes, yes. Noah St. John. Thank you. I knew it was a saint. That's a great book. It's a great book. He came up with it in the shower and it works.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go also to check it out because I need it. Like for me, is like like I put everything that is about affirmation because I don't like to hear them. I cannot stand to hear them, and I cannot say I'm the person that I don't like to say them. So what I do, I put them during my sleep. So
Yes.
I put them. I put on YouTube. There's plenty of affirmation, and everything. And I literally put like 8 hours of affirmations. And while I'm sleeping, I let them roll.
Yeah.
Because
You
somewhere
could
is
you could do that as well.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So seems like everybody got the information I need, and I think you have to send to everybody the videos because everybody wants it now. But it's good.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is challenging. I mean, having teens and having to deal with, and it's challenging to ourselves. I'm like, like all the time, I'm like, me and my wife were like fighting with each other, like the idea that, how to make sure the kid is not going to pass the same thing that we did, like to kind of stop that cycle of faults, in our DNA, in our projects, and our mindset. And that's challenging. Like, to
It's
stop
very
yourself.
challenging. It's very challenging as a parent because you want to do so much for your children and you don't want to see them hurt or upset. You just don't want to do it. And unfortunately, we end up pushing and we push and we push and we push, and that doesn't help. The hardest thing I had to do, and sometimes I would literally have to like, the hardest thing I had to do was just let him express. That was sometimes the hardest thing that I had to do was just let him just get it out. And then he'd come back calm. Most of the time he'd apologize because it's almost like confronting someone. When you confront someone, you activate the amygdala, the reptilian part of
Fight
their
more.
body. That's right. And then they come out slinging. Whereas if you just say, okay, I'm just going to let you go now. Then all of a sudden, now they don't know what to do. It really catches them off guard for one thing, because they're ready for a fight. And if you don't give it to them,
Yeah.
then they calm down.
You do the religious part, when somebody slaps you one side, you turn the other one.
Yeah.
And they go like, well, it kind of the same thing. But I think it's like for and I know that your time is precious. I want to hold you more, but I think just as an idea, I think our mind is so well embedded with all this thing in the subconscious and everything else. It's like I feel like it's so hard to change those habits that we've been embedded since we were small, and now, you know 30, 40, 50 years later, we're trying to change everything. It's gonna be like, not
Yeah, and I
now.
think it's I'm going to tell you it's not easy because we've been programmed for so long to think a way, and when we want to change, our mind's like, no, 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 no. That's why we stay in abusive relationships. That's why we overeat. You mentioned NLP. One of the presuppositions of NLP is that everyone does something for a reason, for a positive reason. Now, take overeating. Someone overeats. They could be overeating because there's sugar craving, right? They're craving sugar. Or maybe they're dealing with some type of trauma and eating. Their mind is thinking that that's a positive thing, that it's helping to calm them down, when we know that it's not necessarily. And so we have to realize that people are always doing the best they can with what they have. And it takes time and it takes work. And sometimes it takes an outside person. Les Brown says you can't see the picture if you're in the frame. When I had to go out and get help. When I was sitting on that bed, listening to my family, contemplating taking those pills, I had to go get help. I couldn't do it on my own. And don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody else that might be able to help you.
For sure. That's one of the hardest thing, when you have to deal with your own things.
Yeah.
Everything else, when you have to help somebody, you're gonna be like, I'm the hero. Don't worry, I got you. But when it's about you, you're
Yeah.
in that frame, like Les Brown says.
Well, then too, I am a firm believer that your gifts are not for you. Your
No,
gifts are to be shared to the world. And there are other people with gifts that can help you. Your gifts are not for you. That's why a lot of the imposter syndrome is so alive and well, because they're like, well, I'm telling people to do this stuff, but I'm not doing it. Well, your gift isn't for you. Let somebody else bless you.
yeah, is that the old saying that the shoemaker with the broken shoe? No,
Yes,
it's the same. It's like if you're a shoemaker, you're not gonna have good shoes. You're gonna have broken shoes because that's your skill. You're not gonna do it yourself.
exactly. Exactly.
It is. It is. I think like in my opinion, we really have to work hard for the next generations not to pass to what we're passing. And I think it's kind of ridiculous. I'm not sure if you listen to this book. It's called Interview with the Devil with Napoleon Hill. Listen to that book. That
Yeah, I've
book.
heard it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was like, what the heck we are doing? What are we drinking? Because it's pinpointing the idea that our society being like this for years and years and years and years, we didn't do nothing, and he's still
Yes.
doing the same mistake that was done in 1939 when it was written the book. We are doing right now. Like, yeah, we know about those, but not now. And I'm like, that's wrong. We have to break this chain, because otherwise the kids will not have a better chance. And the
Yep.
only way I can do it is, with ourselves. And for me, that's the reason I ask you like 5 times, maybe the same thing, because I need all the angles. I need to get that thing clear,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people, they need a map.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you're gonna deal with. I mean, I'm pretty sure you deal with people that they're gonna say, "Hey, give me a map. I don't know how to do it. Whatever you tell me, give me something. Give me steps. One A, B, C, so I know." And I'm kind of like sometimes I'm like, okay, what next? What I'm gonna do next?
There reminds me of a story I heard of a little boy who was I think it was military officer's son, or whose son kept bugging him and kept bugging him, and he was trying to get some work done, and so he has this picture and of this world map, and it's in pieces, and he tells his little boy, he says, go to the floor and put together this world, put together this map. So the little boy comes back, the dad's saying, oh, this is going to take a while. Little boy comes back really quickly. And his son said, and he said, the dad said, how did you get that put together so well? And the little boy said, he says, well, there's a picture of a man on the other side. And when I put the man together, his world came together. And it's true. When the man is put together, his world is together. And that is why I love that Viktor Frankl quote that says, the thing that the last of human freedoms is our ability to change our attitude in any given circumstances.
Yeah, and that defines also a good leader.
Yep. Yep. Well,
It's
thank you so much. Those who stuck in there with us, hung in there with us.
Yeah, we had like a little bit lower audience today. I'm not sure why. We expect more. I mean, it was like 6, but I'm very happy for those one that are here. We cheer up the one that they're present, and um, express our feelings for the one that they missed this episode.
Yeah.
Because for sure, like it was a good.
We'll get a lot of replay. My
Oh,
audience is usually during the day. My audience is usually available during the day. When I look at all of my metrics,
yeah, and yeah,
expect a
so
lot of replays on
yeah,
the replay.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I managed to get my channel now on like 1,000 something subscribers now, so I'm happy.
Oh, good.
Victoria, I can
You're
ask you
welcome.
out of depression. It was religious, and PL, how you get out of depression? You know,
Let's see. How do you get out of depression? Oh, here it is. Victoria, can I ask how you got out of that depression? Was it religion, NLP? No, it wasn't. It wasn't religion. Although I do believe that it was a divine within me. I do believe, you know, if you believe in woo-woo, I do believe it was God who said to me, you were not made for this. This is not what I made you for. I do believe that was divine within me. But I ended up, I took off, I studied, I knew there had to be a better way. I started listening to the greats like Earl Nightingale, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Les Brown. I started listening to their messages, and I started to there was a book by Elanya Van Zandt called In the Meantime. I believe that book saved my life, and she talks about building our house. We start in the basement, and that's where almost everything's everybody else's fault. And the only way to get out is to say, something has to change in my life. And then we go to the first floor when we want to start, we want to start clearing junk and moving things out of the way, but we don't know how. And so we push forward, and that's when I was pushing forward and learning and listening to some of these great minds. And then we go to the second floor, and that's when we see what we did. We've made some changes, but we're not quite there. But we know that there's a ceiling, this glass ceiling, and we know that we've got some more to clear out. And then we get to the third floor. And that's where a lot of people stay. The third floor of the house is where you reach back, you help a lot of other people, and you bring them up out of the basement. And then she calls the attic. That is where Buddha, Jesus, that's where the yogis are. That's where the ascended masters are. And so that's a great book. It's really a great, and then I actually discovered, that's how I discovered hypnotherapy. I did a session I saw on YouTube of hypnotherapy, and it changed my life. And I thought, my God, if people knew that this existed, how many lives could be saved?
It is like our mind is the one that is the first who is deceiving us, especially when we take our lives, because we're not capable of seeing the picture clear of what's going on, and
that's right.
We only see it from one angle, us, and then it's
that's right.
It's
That's
kind
right.
of too late,
That's right. So that's how I did it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Victoria. I'm not gonna hold you one more moment.
You're very welcome.
And I'm looking forward to see what else we can do together. I told you I'm looking forward to work with you to do something. I don't know what, but we'll have to do
something.
Yes, maybe you're gonna come in Miami here, like we're gonna do here like a retreat or something. There's plenty of places here also. Maybe in Marco Island, it's good. I'm not saying it's not good. I love Marco Island. It's too quiet sometimes.
Yeah, we'll do something. Maybe I'll do the Soul Sister Success Circle retreat in Miami sometime. Yeah, we'll see.
We're trying to expand our horizon right now with what we're doing. So for sure, it's gonna be like reaching out to you again. And plus, I'm gonna for sure I'm gonna give you the I'm gonna send you some. I forgot to send you this week, but I'm gonna send you next week to reach out to Mr. Richard Dolan to get your target.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be number 3. If anyone would like to reach out to me, you can, my email is victoria@justaskvictoria.com, justaskvictoria.com. You can message me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram @justaskvictoria. And you can find me on Twitter @justaskvictoria. I do have a masterclass, how to banish self-sabotage for good. I do have that master class that's available. If you'd like to learn more about that, again, just inbox me on Facebook, hit me up on Instagram, Just Ask Victoria. I am on Clubhouse as well. And I'm on Clubhouse under @Victoria Finch. I moderate a lot of rooms. If you're on Clubhouse, I have a morning show from 7:10 a.m. Until about 9. I also host a public speaking tip show with John Watkis, and he was the original voice actor on stage in Canada for the Lion King, so as Mufasa. So he has Mufasa's voice. It's really cool. And then I host several high achievers room. So if you're on Clubhouse, you definitely want to follow me on Clubhouse. And that would be at Victoria Finch.
And we're gonna put every single of this, we're gonna put it in the video description down below, so everybody can reach out to you and can, you know, anything that they need, they can get it done. Okay.
Yes, I can actually put it here in the chat too.
Yeah. You have a copy paste for everything, like a magic everything. Yeah, perfect. So we have it here saved, and I'm gonna put the rest of it after you're gonna send me some. Just as Victoria. Just as Victoria everywhere.
That's right.
It's simple.
Huh?
It's very simple. Just ask Victoria. If you
Just
don't know
ask
some,
Victoria. That's right. Just ask Victoria. It's either that or my name. I made it that way on purpose.
for sure. Thank you very much one more time, Victoria. It was again a pleasure to have you. And
You're
you know,
very welcome.
I'm gonna make sure that we're gonna have this video all over. So we're gonna have it all over the place. I'm gonna make sure that by the end of this week is gonna be
Okay,
done.
I will look for it and I will share it, and there'll be plenty of replays.
For sure.
I have a big audience in the UK and a big audience in Australia, and so you know in the UK it's like middle of the night for them.
Well, you can ask Soha. She's in UK. It's 2 o'clock
Yeah,
there. And
yeah,
Christian was also in UK. So
yeah.
we have two people
Different
tonight.
time.
You see.
Okay, well, fantastic.
Thank you.
I will see.
Bye. Thank you
I
very
will see
much.
you. Bye. Thank you for those of you who hung in there. I appreciate you. I really do. 2:40 a.m. Wow. I appreciate you.
You have a fan there, right there.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. I gotta go.